Hello everyone, welcome to another British Esports Association stream. My name is Dominic Sacco, I'm the head of content here at British Esports, and I'm joined by a very special guest today, Matt Shanter from Sheridans. Thanks for joining us, Matt.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Anytime, and this is quite a unique stream. I think given the circumstances at the moment, it's quite unique circumstances, isn't it, out there. With the government guidance, the lockdown, as people are calling it, the guidelines to isolate yourselves, keep your distance from people, and so on, has brought in its own way very many challenges, from shopping to doing exercise to one of the most important ones for people is their living, and keeping their wages coming in. For a lot of people, this has really shifted their work. It's made it very difficult for some people in the events industry and so on. And for the esports industry, while from the outside it might look like, oh, well, esports is digital, we can still carry on, we can just make the tournaments online only and move away from physical venues. It's actually been quite challenging for a lot of the tournament organisations, from what I'm hearing, but also for the workers in esports as well, especially the freelancers who, from casters to hosts to production staff, talent managers who are required to fly all over the world and get to different events. It's been really challenging for them because they haven't been able to move to events, and so the amount of work they're getting has dropped a lot. So hopefully this stream, I've got a real expert here from Matt from Sheridans, who comes highly recommended. We'll hopefully be able to talk about the options for you as freelance esports workers and anything else. And I'd like to start by saying, if you guys have any questions today, please ask them in the chat, and I can bring those forward as and when and ask Matt your questions. So please do ask. We want this to be as interactive as possible. So after that long-winded intro from me, Matt, maybe you can tell us a bit about yourselves and what you do at Sheridans.
Certainly. Well, hello everybody. Hope everyone's safe and well. It's all a bit crazy at the moment. Yeah, as Dom says, I'm Matt. I'm from Sheridans. I work in the interactive and digital media team. I'm a commercial lawyer, so largely non-contentious work, but just working with companies and individuals across the games, social media, influencer agencies, talent as well. Sports businesses, quite a wide range of clients that I particularly work with, events companies and the like. And in the wake of this, the classic adage, unprecedented situation, I've managed to become the leading voice, I guess, for the firm on advice around the coronavirus business support schemes and all the other elements around business in particular in the UK.
Absolutely. And Matt, could you tell us a bit about Sheridans? Because there might be people out there that aren't aware of what you guys do. You work in not just esports, but sports as well and other areas, right?
Yeah, so we have quite a big handle in traditional sports, really, really highly regarded sports team at Sheridans, massive in the gaming and esports sectors. So that's, I guess, becoming, and has been for some time, one of the areas which Sheridans has been a leading voice on. Lots of media-focused sectors as well, so film, TV, theatre, investment as well. So it's quite a broad-ranging but very media-centric and technology-centric firm.
And we get requests from people every now and then saying, "Oh, I've got this contract dispute, or I've got this problem in esports. Do you have any legal advice?" And our stock response is pretty much, "We're not legal experts. Go and talk to Sheridans." So we've passed a few people your way, and hope we can help many more in the future. So I guess to start with, then, Matt, could you give us an overview about this government support scheme that they outlined a week or so ago, and how that can sort of help people in esports and gaming who are out of pocket given the current situation?
Yeah, well, I think esports as a sector generally is heavily reliant on self-employed people, and I guess many of you watching this will be in that situation. And I think if government data is anything to go by, it is a massive percentage of the labour market in the UK. I think it's over 5 million self-employed individuals, and that's anything from plumbers and electricians to freelance designers, musicians, whatever it might be. Work across all types of industries in the UK, and esports obviously being one of them, being very online based and dependent on flexible labour arrangements. So the scheme is the self-employed income support scheme, as you say, was launched a week or so ago. And it's essentially a way of covering lost earnings, but very importantly, taxable profits. So it's profits over the last 3 years as an average, up to a maximum of 50,000. So it's not revenue, that's taxable profits. But it covers obviously where coronavirus has hit quite significantly, the self-employed market and the labour market generally, gives a taxable grant of up to £2,500 per month for people and businesses that have been significantly affected by the crisis. And so there are obviously other eligibility requirements, but that's essentially what it does, is provides, I guess, a coverage of money that would have been earned had it not been for coronavirus.
And what's the reaction to this, Matt? I know this wasn't in my list of questions I sent over before. I have a very conversational style, so I apologise in advance. But what kind of reaction have you seen from this? Has it been well received by your clients in sports, gaming and esports?
I think it's been a really important development, because I think the government quickly realised that the alternative schemes wouldn't cover everybody, and I think there was obviously a lot of concern about the self-employed market in particular. It has been well received, and the good thing about this scheme as well, unlike the other job retention scheme, is that self-employed people can continue working while still gaining the benefit of the scheme, which is one of the upsides. I guess the only worry that self-employed people have is that the money won't start being received by applicants until early June. They're saying early June. They've had to design a completely new system to deal with the payments, with the grants. So it's been well received in terms of who it covers and how, but not necessarily at the moment. Obviously, the concern is that the money hasn't started filtering down as yet. Right.
Okay. So, but like you say, it's a broad range of people that are eligible for this. You know, they just need a trading profit of less than £50,000, like you say, from the last financial year.
That's correct, yeah. So it's sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, what happens if they earn more than that? Because I know there are a few hosts and people out there that will earn more than that in a financial year.
I think the tricky thing that the government had to deal with was obviously, as you say, is a wide variety of people and businesses that are earning potentially more than that. I think they said that it would cover 95% of the self-employed market, and whether that can be backed up, I'm not sure. But they were basically saying that anything over that as an average would essentially be not wanting of that amount of money, but they wanted to focus on the bulk of the self-employed market.
Right.
And the good thing, I guess, if you have self-employed trading profit over the last 3 years and tax return over the last 3 years, if you had a kind of a bad 16-17, then a good 17-18, and vice versa, it's the average trading profits over that period. It could be that it works in favour of quite a few businesses and could bring them under the limit of eligibility, which is probably what the government were getting at in that sense.
So I guess their thinking is, if you earn over 50 grand average, like you say, then you may be okay to weather the storm for these next few months or however long this situation is going to last.
I think that was the thinking. I mean, it's probably a tad short-sighted, but I think they have a pretty difficult job in trying to cover as much of the market as possible. And as schemes are released, they think there's always a voice that says, "Oh, what about X?" So I think they've tried to cover as much of the labour market as possible. And I think they realised very quickly that obviously the creative industries in particular, esports and gaming being one of them, will be heavily dependent on self-employed people. So I think they've gone on the basis that if we cover as much as we can within obviously the money that they've made available, then that's the way they're working on it at the moment.
What's available, Matt? I know we spoke about people that earn more than that £50,000 a year. What is there for people who aren't eligible? Are there any other schemes that they can tap into?
I think it would come down to the initial question of how self-employed people are working. So you've obviously got the sole traders and partners of partnerships that are eligible for this on paper before the other kind of earning limits and that kind of thing kick in. But there's the coronavirus job retention scheme, which covers the PAYE workers. There are some self-employed people, and probably again some watching, that are engaged by larger businesses through service companies or limited companies as a way of working. Directors of those companies are technically employees. So if they pay themselves through PAYE by their own company, then they could be eligible for the job retention scheme. The difficulty with that is obviously there are tax levels and things that come into play, so that the actual financial benefit could be limited, because obviously lots of companies pay themselves through dividends only. But there is an option, if you are a PAYE employee of your own limited company but self-employed, that you could access that scheme as well. The difficulty with that is if you are only paying yourself through dividends, at the moment, or at least at the time of this stream, there's nothing that specifically deals with self-employed people that are paying themselves with dividends through the company, which is obviously been an issue. And there are lots of large businesses that only engage limited companies or service companies. And I would anticipate that there's going to be something to support those people in the coming weeks, I'd like to think, because there's been lots of coverage of that issue.
Yeah, it is very strange times, isn't it, we find ourselves in. And I think because you guys did a guest post on our website a week or so ago, is it true that people that apply for this scheme, they're still going to have to wait a few months, right? Is June the earliest that they're going to get funds from the government?
That's what they're saying at the moment. I mean, their argument is that the system is something completely new. They've had to design from scratch with HMRC. So they firstly are going to contact eligible parties. So they'll be making contact with people that have the tax returns. And just a quick point on the tax returns is that if you don't yet have a tax return for 2019, they've given an extended period where you can file a tax return up to the 23rd of April of this month. So that was an additional month period where anybody that hasn't filed yet for last year can do so. So as long as you have a tax return for a minimum of last year, you can access that scheme, and as long as they have those people's details on their system, they will make contact. From that point, you then apply for the grant, and then the grant is filtered down. I'm hoping that, as is everybody, hoping that the scheme does kick in a little bit quicker than that, because obviously it's quite a long time to wait. Also, the assumption is going to be that it's going to be extended beyond the end of May, because the scheme's initially available from 1st of March, so it can be back to 1st of March up to the end of May. Similarly to the coronavirus job retention scheme, the assumption will be that if obviously things continue as they are, then they will extend the scheme if need be, and they have said they would do that as well.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask next, because I've read there's been so many headlines flying around COVID-19, the coronavirus, and one I read a few weeks ago said that in the worst case scenario, this situation could continue for up to a year. So do you realistically expect the government to pay all those wages out for a whole year? That's an enormous amount of money, isn't it, if that's the case? It's
a really difficult one. I think, obviously, as tragic as the situation is, and with everything going on, they're going to have something in place which covers at least up until the end of the year, I would imagine. Lots of businesses are planning for things like home working even until kind of December of this year as a worst case scenario. I think it will just depend how the response on the healthcare side is managed, and then I think the business side will unfortunately follow after. But it's probably something they're going to have to seriously think about. And I mean, there obviously are other schemes like the loan schemes, which are helping companies with liquidity and businesses with liquidity and cash flow. But I think the good thing about the length of the scheme and what the government has said so far is that this is making sure that people have work to go to on the other side. And I think if 3 months is an ambitious short-term target, then it probably bodes well that things will start gradually returning to normal after May, June. But again, I think it's relatively uncertain. But I mean, there's a short answer to a question. I think it's they'll have to maintain the support if they've been providing it up until now, or at least other ways that they can inject cash straight into businesses in particular.
They're going to have to grow some magic money trees, aren't they?
I think so, yeah.
Just another reminder to those of you watching in the chat, please feel free to ask any questions you have around this topic, or maybe even wider legal questions in esports. I don't know if you're comfortable answering to the best of your ability, Matt.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I think the industry generally, certainly, I think if there are very specific queries, I can deal with them, or at least direct them to somebody in our team that could answer more comprehensively. But if there are things, obviously, around the business schemes and government schemes, then I'm very comfortable with that in the game's context. But if there are other things, I can certainly direct you in the right place. Absolutely,
yeah. I think, to be honest, we've covered off quite a lot that's on my list. I've jumped ahead with some of my questions already. Did you want to talk about some of the specifics the scheme provides? Do you want to go into any detail here? Because we've spoke about the basics, haven't we? The money that's available. Is there anything that people might not be aware of in the small print that you think is worth mentioning?
I think at the moment it's quite difficult because they kind of blast out the initial information and work backwards with the detail, which I think is obviously the way they've been responding and gradually filling things in. What I would say is that obviously the limits are there. What is good about the scheme is that, and again, I think I mentioned earlier, but unlike the coronavirus job retention scheme, which is all the furloughing schemes as it's been known, is that workers that are sent home on the furlough scheme are not allowed to work at all for that business. They can, in theory, work for other businesses that aren't, but obviously the job market is particularly challenging at the minute. They can volunteer, for example, but they can't generate income or revenue for those businesses. The good thing about the self-employed scheme is that you can carry on as normal if the work is there, and still claim the relief, which is really encouraging, I think, for this particular scheme for self-employed people generally. And also, I think it's probably difficult for lots of new businesses and startups in the gaming and esports sectors to think, is this relief for me? Is this scheme aimed at me? And I would say absolutely. And I think that, there are businesses that will think, I'm not sure if this is going to be applicable or I should be taking advantage of this. And I think the advice I'd give is that absolutely these injections of cash and reliefs are completely aimed at new emerging businesses and industries and sectors, because those are going to be the industries and sectors that are going to help the economy recover on the other side. So there should be no kind of guilt, if you want to put it that way, about gaining access. I mean, make use of them as much as possible. There are obviously startup loans and things like that for certain businesses as well. And we haven't really touched on that side of things, but in terms of obviously job retention and liquidity of self-employed businesses, it's very important to make sure that if you are eligible to take full advantage of that.
Absolutely. A quick shout out to some people in the chat. Thanks, Radiant Nova, Nathan, for following, and Megalodontus, one of my writers over at Esports News UK. Thanks for tuning in. So this stream, guys, if you're not aware, is offering some advice, some expert advice from the legal firm Sheridans around the current situation involving COVID-19 and the options for esports freelancers. So, how can they take advantage of the government support scheme so that they can still get paid, basically, and earn a living. I've got a question here from Elliot, actually, on our team. Elliot Bond is one of our school and college liaison officers, and he's asked Matt, what about people who are worrying about their current stability in their role and are looking to expand in the esports space? Is there much viability in attempting to start a new business during these sort of tough times?
Well, I think it's an interesting one because esports and gaming generally have actually seen a bit of a surge of popularity, and also obviously mainstream coverage of esports has been happening in bulk for the last, you could say probably 2 years, but certainly 18 months. And even mainstream media are thinking, actually, this is something that's very important and very popular. And you can obviously see that with the Formula One Live esports racing, which is getting some really, really good coverage. And I think the gaming and esports sector or sectors, or talking generally, we'll see, and we have seen that there is going to be a lot more eyeballs on the screen, a lot more interest in the area, which I think is encouraging for people that are wanting to start their own business on either during or on the back of this situation. So that, I would say, keep optimistic on that side, certainly.
Absolutely. And to add to that, I mean, the stuff I do in my spare time, I get a lot of press releases in my inbox. And pretty much all the news at the moment, other than online tournaments like, the League of Legends, LEC, playoffs and things like that, which are still continuing, it's all around people's response to the COVID-19 situation. There's a lot of charity streams, which has been fantastic. Twitch Aid raised however much it did the other week, $3 million, I think it was, or more. That's been fantastic, but there's a lot out there going on at the moment, and it shows that there are opportunities to be had. Everyone at the moment is at home using Zoom. We're using Zoom now to do this interview live, using these live conferencing platforms, and it shows that, there's opportunities out there in the digital world, isn't there? I mean, if the situation had happened 2 or 3 decades ago, it'd be a real crazy situation, right? People wouldn't be able to work like us.
I think that's exactly right, and I think as a industry, things like working from home, for example, are commonplace in esports and gaming and across the media sectors generally. So to being able to adapt much quicker to this situation, this kind of forced situation, I mean, gaming and esports are perfectly positioned in that sense. And it's all in front of a screen. People are, as you say, at home. They're recognizing the benefit of gaming as a kind of, not even just a social interaction, but just a downtime tool as well. I think on the back of it, and I think I was talking to another business a day or so ago, on the back of the credit crunch in 2008-9, you saw lots of emerging businesses and things like Deliveroo and Monzo and all of these kind of disruptive businesses that are redefining the economy. And I think gaming and esports sits very well placed in being able to do that on the back of this. And I think that the value will be grown exponentially because of the situation. Obviously, as tragic as it is, the positives to take from it from the side of the industry are huge.
Absolutely, I agree with that. And we got a question here from Megalodontus. He said, "Not sure if applicable, but I think this is interesting. It'd be interesting to hear your thoughts, Matt. How has Brexit impacted or projected to impact the legal side of UK esports? Is it all over now, or are we still going through a transition? Because we've still got this year, haven't we, to negotiate with the European Union?"
Yeah, I think the general position is that there's going to be some kind of significant delay, which is quite, characteristic of Brexit generally. I think that they're obviously dealing with the immediate emergency impact of the crisis. They may even want to rethink a few things on the back of it, particularly in the technology industry. But I think, there's certainly going to be some kind of delay and rejig of what's happening. The world has changed beyond all recognition, to be honest. So I think in that sense, it's a broad answer, but I think there's certainly going to be a delay and probably a few changes to be made. I say few, it's taken lightly, but the landscape will be very different on the other side of this, absolutely.
This situation has kind of eclipsed the whole Brexit being on the agenda, hasn't it? The headlines are every headline. I almost don't like. I shouldn't say this as a journalist as well, but I almost don't like going on news websites at the moment because every headline is around coronavirus, and the Brexit message has been sort of pushed to one side, and I guess rightly so, because the COVID situation involves people's lives, and their health, rather than being part of the European Union. So there's been a shift there, hasn't there? Have you seen that in businesses as well? I guess businesses and your clients have really have to shift their focus in light of the past few months.
Yeah, I think, you've seen from a national level, party politics has pretty much disappeared. Obviously, Labour Party have a new leader, which has kind of slid on the radar a little bit. And I think on the ground, if you like, this is probably the first conversation I've had about Brexit, actually, from a actual practical perspective, because as you say, it's been completely eclipsed by what is a global disaster. But I think politics will change. Businesses will certainly change on the back of it, for better or for worse. Hopefully, everybody can come out of it kind of more unscathed than they were anticipating. But global politics will have to change, and certainly UK politics will be probably realigned on the back of that as well.
Here's another question for you, Matt. Sorry to throw curveballs at you, but it just crossed my mind. If, say, there's an esports freelancer that's based abroad, usually, whether it's, I don't know, Sweden or America or wherever, and they've flown to the UK to do large pieces of work, are there schemes available to them in their respective countries? I guess it depends on government by government, right?
Yeah, it'll be very, as you say, specific to the different countries, and even some of the schemes available here around business grants and that kind of thing are specific to country as opposed to the UK. So just using UK as an example, you've probably seen the small business grants and business rates release and that kind of thing for physical businesses or businesses with premises.
Yeah, they
are different per devolved administration, and in that Wales, Northern Ireland, Scotland will all have their own schemes running parallel because they manage that side of things themselves. So I think per government it will certainly be different. I think the general view has been that the UK's response in the way of schemes release and everything else has been probably the best, and obviously the government have promoted that. But as much as labour market coverage goes, I think we're in a pretty good position. But the short answer is yes, it will be very dependent on which country is dealing with those reliefs. But the UK's position is fairly strong, according to what you can see anyway.
In terms of advice for esports freelancers, something I've just thought of is, yes, there are no physical events going on at the moment, but a lot of these online tournaments and events still require hosts, right? So hopefully some of these freelancers will still be getting work. I know that there are grassroots tournaments out there as well. It's not just the top tournaments like majors or anything like that, or LEC and so on. There are grassroots tournaments like, we have our own British Esports Championships finals, hopefully taking place 24th to 26th of April. So do mark that in your calendars, guys. And that'll be the top student teams. But other grassroots tournaments as well. Games Belong Arena Clash, that's still continuing live online. So there are still opportunities for esports freelancers. It's just there aren't as many as events. There might not be as many as usual, I guess.
Well, that's the thing. You look at the main government response to the crisis was to protect businesses that are dependent on things like footfall, obviously retail events businesses. Obviously, esports has its share of live events, but I think what will also come on the back of this as well is that they'll realise that actually we can host online events, and in fact, eyeballs on the screen, you've got brands that are going to be very, very willing to still spend money in these areas and support events, even smaller ones, because they know that you've got a screen in front of you and a product is promoted, and immediately you've got Google in front of you as well. So you might be at a live event and I'll look the product up when I get home, or whatever it might be, or just you kind of just slips past.
Yeah.
Whereas digital advertising and brands will still be extremely keen to support esports and gaming as an industry, It's been growing at a ridiculous rate for the last 2, 3, 4 years, and on the basis that it is possible to host online, and people are seeing that it's becoming more acceptable for that to be a way of digesting content. I think it's something that could really continue to grow.
How have you seen things change, Matt? You said that it's been growing over the past few years, and it absolutely has. But Sheridans, I think, moved into esports around that time, 3 or 4 years ago. Certainly when I joined the British Esports Association, I think it was looking into esports then. So it's probably seen a lot of growth in that time. How have you seen things change? I mean, yeah, you joined within that time, right? So they've grown the team and everything.
Yeah. So you see, I think the main thing I've noticed coming from the outside into obviously Sheridans Sports and Esports team that's been at the cutting edge really for the last probably 4 years, or at least was at its pretty much its infancy. The size of brand deal has increased significantly. Obviously, things like team sponsorships, lots of non-traditional gaming brands have got involved with esports as well, which has then grown the exposure.
Yeah.
Things like traditional sports teams that are using esports to push a brand as well and kind of supplement what they're doing on the traditional sports side. I mean, the coverage that esports receives now and will again receive more so is that it's becoming a genuine alternative to traditional sports, particularly with the weather in England being the way it is. People would probably be glad to not be outside and rather be in front of a screen. And as you look at the skill involved as well, which you've seen obviously the Formula One live streaming recently, where you've got a non-racing driver beating everybody in quite convincingly. So I think that it's the amount of coverage that it's receiving. It's the amount of investment and advertising revenue that it's attracting as well, and people, lots of big businesses are wanting to ride on the back of this wave of popularity, which can only be a good thing.
And that taps into what we were talking about, opportunities earlier. This crossover between sports and esports, which has been happening more and more in recent years. We've seen an awful lot of that happen around this COVID-19 situation. Like you mentioned, the F1, NASCAR in the US, I think, broke some records for having virtual NASCAR races instead of physical ones. NHL I've seen, and a few others. And there's been an awful lot of FIFA tournaments as well. Gareth Bale has held a FIFA esports tournament. I know a pro British FIFA player, Ryan Pessoa, he's been having show matches with people. He had a show match with Trent Alexander-Arnold from Liverpool the other week. So there are opportunities, right? These people that are putting on these streams will need production staff. They'll need managers. They'll need mods in the chat to make sure everything's running smoothly and so on. So that's very encouraging. We've got another question here from Heracon, Matt. May I ask, following this question, what would you advise for a young organisation having more difficulties to promote themselves without physical events? So, for example, securing sponsorship or financial support due to COVID-19. So that's more for a business, isn't it? I guess, a start-up business.
Well, I think there are lots of schemes that probably haven't been widely published, and there is actually a government-backed scheme. It's called literally the startup loan, and that's a way of businesses, smaller businesses, usually startups, or mainly for startups, but with businesses that are less than 2 years old, can gain access to between £500 and £25,000 to, it may be just to acquire equipment or take on staff or developers, or be able to bring on self-employed people just to help the business kick on, just to have cash in the bank, essentially. The good thing about the startup loan is that if you've got, say, 4 of you that are working for a partnership or a business, each individual can apply for a loan. So up to a maximum of 100,000. So if you've got 4 partners, you can all individually apply for this loan. So you've got quite substantial cash in the bank to kind of ride this, but also to grow your business on the other side. I think obviously access to cash, the first place people go to is their actual bank. I think at the moment it could be a good time to speak to existing banks and say, look, what's available, because obviously lots of attention is on banks and the things like the coronavirus business interruption loan scheme that they've gradually eased the eligibility restrictions. So there could be per bank and different lending businesses that have their own products available to smaller businesses and startup businesses that could be well worth looking at. I mean, that's the first obvious thing to look at, is taking on liabilities that may not be something that many startups are keen on. But I think it's just making the most of whatever's the least expensive. I know it sounds pretty obvious, but looking at growing a network, social media is obviously a massive thing. You can advertise for a relatively small amount of money. You can push, lots of esports and gaming enthusiasts and business have excellent networks on social media and probably don't even realize that the knowledge they can tap into and the contacts they can tap into are extremely important. And that goes for any business really, but particularly in a digital business.
Absolutely. And for those of you who are following us now, thank you, or just tuning into the stream, please do go back and watch this stream. We're going to put all our streams, we'll aim to put as many of our streams as possible on our YouTube channel as well. You can Google that, the British Esports Association YouTube channel. You can watch our first 2 streams there as well. We had our launch stream last Friday, and we had some advice from our head of education, Tom Dorr, and our school and colleges liaison officer, Elliot, on Monday as well. So thanks for those tuning in now. We've just had a spate of followers come in, and now's a good opportunity for these people that are coming in. If you have any questions for Matt, please do ask them in the chat. Any legal advice around this COVID-19 situation, esports freelancers, how you can protect your income and so on, please ask away. And I guess that, we've covered a lot there, Matt. That's certainly most of my questions. Is there anything else you'd like to add around this?
I think I may have mentioned really just in passing earlier is that the positivity that can be taken from this as an industry is going to be, obviously, again, it's a difficult situation and a really rather serious situation. But I think on the back of the fact that the industry is growing anyway, and in short, it's a very positive outlook for esports and gaming generally. I mean, we've seen obviously a slight slowdown in the gaming space, but generally it's been very, very positive, and business has kind of continued as normal. So I think it's important to remember, it's the thrive or survive mentality, I think, especially for younger businesses, but then self-employed people, obviously you're looking at the short term a little bit more. But I think opportunities will keep coming. There's uncertainty at the moment, obviously, about what's actually going to happen for how long. But it's also important to keep maybe a bit of perspective about, where things will be in 2-3 months' time. And again, I repeat, if there are schemes available to you, please just make use of them, because the money's there to be utilised, and to make sure that there is a largely untouched labour market, in particular after this is will hopefully started to die down.
Oh, sorry, Matt. Sorry, I muted myself by accident there. I was basically saying, if you guys ever want to come back on and talk about more legal issues or do more Q&A sessions, I was speaking to your colleague Chris a while back about doing some kind of agony aunt, agony uncle style series of content, because I think you guys are real experts, and we do get these questions that come our way at the British Esports Association from young players or organisations, and they have these difficult legal questions, and you're the people to ask rather than us. So if you're ever up for that, do let us know. But thanks very much, Matt, for tuning in. I think that's all my questions, and we've covered off everything nicely. I've given you the chance for anything else you want to add, but if there's any other shout-outs or anything like that, maybe how people can get in touch with Sheridans, anything you want to add to end with?
Yeah, I mean, we're here certainly to help in these times, and I think it's touching absolutely every single business. And I think the important thing to note is that it hasn't discriminated effectively in terms of type of business, size of business. Every single person has been affected by it, and we're an email or a phone call away to provide assistance, or even just a bit of a steer on the actual government guidance itself and things like that, because it's a very fluid situation. The guidance is changing hourly at the moment, really. So there's no reason why this is easy to digest at the best of times, because they are kind of having to react daily to things that they're coming up against, the government are coming up against. So like we're always here to assist. There are a couple of dedicated email addresses. One of them's covid19@sheridans.co.uk. You can contact as well, interactive@sheridans.co.uk, and a couple of email addresses. You can obviously contact us directly as well. So our profiles are on the website. So the esports and sports team specifically is Chris Paget, Johnny Medill, Andrew Nixon. You've got Dan G and Ryan Hawkins as well. Ryan's very experienced in that area as well. So I think if it's general questions about what's happening on the ground at the moment, and if you've got any specific queries around the government assistance, then please do get in touch.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Matt, for joining us. And I hope to see you soon. I've got a few bits for those of you in the chat. I'm just going to do a quick few updates on British esports, but I'll let you go now, Matt, if that's okay. Thanks very much. And hope to follow up soon and talk about other content we can do here as well.
Certainly. It's been a pleasure. Thanks very much, and hope everyone keeps safe and well.
Absolutely. You too, Matt. Thanks very much.
Cheers. Thanks a lot.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye. Okay, thanks for sticking around, guys. Just a few quick couple of updates here. Let's see if this works. Bear with me. So I'm going to just try and bring this up. So we just want to give a shout out to the NUL, the student-focused esports body here in the UK, because they've got some finals coming up as well, which may be relevant to you guys. This is from the April 10th to April 15th. It's going to be at the NUL stream, twitch.tv/the NUL, and I'm hoping we can host those guys as well. And you can see here they've got a nice mix of tournaments here: Rainbow Six, TFT, Clash Royale, League of Legends, CS:GO, Overwatch, and Magic: The Gathering as well, Campus Battle. So do check those guys out. And I think lastly, I just wanted to highlight this, which we put a press release out on yesterday. We've announced our Women in Esports committee. So Women in Esports is a campaign we launched last year to promote females in esports and gaming, to promote diversity and so on, and to shout about the great female talent we have in Britain and elsewhere as well. And this campaign is led by Morgan and Alice on our team. And we've announced a committee here, so we've got some really good names on board, and they'll sort of be discussing aims and focuses for this campaign. So if you want to get involved, please do give us a shout. Go check out our website. You'll see this on the homepage, and if you scroll down, you see some contact information there. I think that's everything from me, guys. I've been getting to grips with all the stream setup recently. And we've got some nice layouts and things here. We'd love to hear your feedback. If you like what we're doing, please let me know. If you want to see certain types of content, please let me know. And you can check out our latest schedule of upcoming content on Twitch by using the command !schedule, or going on our website as well, or looking below in the video in the description, the panels on this channel as well. I think our next stream is on Friday. I think it's 4:00, our next stream. Let me just check here. And we're having sort of fun community nights every Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. There we go. So we're going to be doing competition to community fun Fridays, and my colleague Elliot's going to be hosting that with quizzes and other just laid back, fun, relaxed things that we can all get together, online in these tough times. And I'll be in the chat there as well. I'll be moderating. So I hope to see you there on Friday. And hopefully, it's not fully confirmed yet, but I'm hoping we can stream some of our League of Legends Clash matches this weekend. British Esports Association team. We're looking for one more person to confirm on the team, and then hopefully we'll be able to do that. But we'll keep you posted on our socials and everything. Thanks again for watching. I've been waffling for far too long now. So I will see you soon, guys. And thanks again.